Joining us is Lisa Byington, broadcaster for the Bucks. Lisa, thank you so much for joining us. How are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you guys? You guys look nice and comfy cozy on those chairs. Huh? You got a little setup there.
They're
Thank
nice.
you.
They're a little deceiving. They're not as comfortable as they look sometimes. So.
Only when you have to sit on them for a super long amount of time.
That's true.
But we're very excited for the season to be just around the corner and tip off, as I'm sure you are. It feels like it's been a really long off season, and especially after the way that the Bucks unfortunately ended last season, I'm sure you've been anxiously anticipating new basketball to start. But what exactly are your expectations for the Bucks this upcoming season?
You know, it's interesting because I think there's a few more questions than answers right now, even for someone like me that gets to see the team day in and day out. And that's because of Adrian Griffin being hired as not only a new coach, but a first-time head coach. So, you know, you just start right there, and there's a lot of questions about, you know, how much of his defensive style. He was kind of the defensive coordinator, if you will, with Nick Nurse. With Toronto. So how much of that are we going to see in Milwaukee? And then it's, you know, how much of this offense are we going to see? Mike Budenholzer had his own sort of what he liked to call a sort of random way of generating offense, more like a 5-out and let Giannis go one-on-one. Is he going to use Giannis as more of like a point center? Is he going to use him as a center? How do the shooters, how many 3-pointers are the Bucks going to put up? That was, you know, always a big part to the Mike Budenholzer offensive system. So, you know, for me, you know, I can't wait because, you know, next week, you know, with training camp and getting some eyes on some of these practices and stuff, I can't wait to see some of the changes and his own like footprint, his own stamp that he's going to put in. But I will say this, that if you're going to walk into a team as a first-time head coach, this is the team to do it with the veteran leadership and the kind of championship pedigree that these guys have. So I think for Coach Griffin, what's going to be key is not only kind of mandate what his system is, but also to lend an ear to some of these veterans on what works for them and what some of their preferences are.
Hi, Lisa. I have a question. So, I mean, I'm a big believer in the Bucks. I love this basketball team. I think when they're healthy and whole, they're probably still the best team, in my opinion, in the Eastern Conference. But I guess the big question is the belief that Khris Middleton is back to where he was before the injury going into this season. How do you feel about Khris Middleton right now?
First of all, I love your Prime. Are those Prime sunglasses, Coach
Yeah.
Prime?
You got it, Lisa. You're becoming one of my best friends already. Here we go. Prime time.
I love it. I just had to start there. It was kind of right? You know, I'm glad you brought up Khris because I think a lot of people forget Khris. And, you know, obviously Giannis is a lot of the topic of conversation. The last time, quite frankly, that we saw Khris Middleton really, truly healthy was the 2021 season. And we saw what he was able to do in the postseason. Really, when Giannis went out and Giannis got hurt in the postseason, Khris was, in my opinion, the MVP, you know, for the Bucks during that stretch and put up some unbelievable numbers in the Brooklyn series, the Phoenix series you guys saw. So I'm glad you brought that up because people forget, you know, you lose to the Celtics in the postseason 2 years ago, but you didn't have Khris Middleton. And he really was not healthy all of last season. So there's so much focus about Giannis getting hurt in the Miami series, but people forget that Khris Middleton wasn't 100% as well. So as much as you need a healthy Giannis, but you need a healthy Khris Middleton as well. And when he's 100%, he's 2021 postseason Khris Middleton, in my opinion.
Wow. Okay.
Lisa, obviously one of the bigger topics of conversation this summer was Giannis and the comments he made about his future. Is this an area for concern, or is this just a star saying kind of the obvious, like, I need to keep winning if I'm going to stay where I'm going to stay?
Frankly, guys, I'm surprised that this was question number 3.
We were trying to be a little bit nice, you know, play nice in the sandbox.
I knew it was coming, but I didn't know it was going to be question number 3. I think the NBA fan base is obsessed with the superstar getting out of the quote unquote smaller market. And I think a lot of the discussion, like I've read all the articles. In fact, I was reading some articles this morning and just kind of laughing because I think the controversy comes with the talk shows talking about it. The controversy comes with the wording of the headlines. And like there was a headline that I read this morning and it said, Giannis gives the Milwaukee Bucks a warning. And I was like, did he really say like, here's my warning to the Milwaukee Bucks? No, I mean, to your point, he is saying what I believe every championship caliber type NBA player is going to demand from their franchise. And that is to feel like they're making steps and progression to winning a championship. And that's all he was saying. He wasn't saying, he never said I'm unhappy at all. He never said that. I'm unhappy with the moves that the Bucks are making. I'm unhappy with the roster that I'm surrounded with. Never said that. So, and let's remember when he signed his Supermax contract in 2020, there was a lot of chatter like, and that was before I was a part of the organization. And I'm sitting watching as an outsider and thinking, oh my gosh, Giannis is going to leave Milwaukee. Like, just because that was like the headline everywhere I watched, from talk shows to online. And so I think it's kind of the spin cycle of the media right now and trying to make something that's not there. So from my opinion, Giannis is happy. He likes his team. He likes the chances of winning a championship. And the people of Milwaukee think they put together a roster that's good enough to do that.
So, Lisa, we should change the headline of this video from Giannis definitely leaving Milwaukee. Is Phoenix a possibility?
Is that what it says? Is that
No. So
but for real, though, we do understand your frustration a little bit with it. Some guys in the chat were mentioning we were dealing with that with Devin Booker when the Suns were atrocious. It was, when is Devin going to ask out of Phoenix? When is he going to force his way out? So we totally understand the frustration with that one.
We've talked about
it's never fun to talk about someone being happy, right? Like, that's
how dare we?
Fun. Contentment is no fun to talk about.
Look, we've talked about Giannis. We've talked about Khris Middleton, but how important to the Bucks' success is Drew Holiday? I mean, to many, I think outside of Giannis, that's the guy that's the linchpin here.
He is and I'm not just saying this because I'm wearing this on my shirt, but he is one of the most underrated, in my opinion, players in the league because he's one of the best two-way players in the league. And it was fascinating to me, and maybe it's because Khris was hurt a lot last year, that opposing coaches in the pregame, they're available to the media. So many opposing coaches got asked the question about Drew Holiday, what's his impact, and they even said that he is one of the most underrated, underappreciated players in the league. And much like, Mike Budenholzer isn't there anymore, but I equated a lot of what he had put together because Drew Holiday was brought to Milwaukee when Bud was there. And I equate a lot of maybe the players, the culture, what John Horst has done is quite similar to the San Antonio Spurs, good players, all-star players, potential Hall of Fame players. And we talk about headlines, but Drew Holiday is not going to give you that spicy headline, right? Mm-hmm. So he's just going to go about and do his job day in and day out. Well, that's not exciting. So it's not, nothing about him is super, super flashy. But he's just awfully, awfully efficient and awfully, awfully effective. And we saw the importance of Drew Holiday last year with Khris Middleton not being healthy, on how much Giannis would lean on him. Even more so, the Bucks, you could argue, don't have that true backup point guard as well. So Drew Holiday this year for the Bucks is going to have to stay healthy as that. If we're going to talk about kind of a true point guard, and I know we're kind of in positionless basketball these days, but he's got to be a key player, and he's got to stay healthy this year.
To your point about the backup point guard spot, would you identify that as kind of the Bucks' biggest weakness, and what would you say their biggest strengths are?
A guy named Giannis, I think, is a
I heard he's leaving now.
That's right. So now that's the weakness, filling the Giannis hole. I think, Giannis, I think the core four are obviously the strength with Brook. I include Brook Lopez with that. So you've got Giannis, Drew Holiday, Khris, and Brook Lopez. The weakness, in my opinion, is just what we talked about in your first question, is just kind of the unknown. I don't know how the Adrian Griffin system's gonna translate to Milwaukee. I don't know if it's going to fit the players there. I don't know. Maybe it'll be great. But right now, I would say, what's his in-game adjustments going to be? He's never really had to do that. So I would say just, coaching staff, player roster, trying to figure things out, especially here in the preseason and maybe the first few months, will be interesting. And maybe the Bucks will suffer some losses because they're still trying to figure it out. So I'd be interested to see and compare like who this Bucks team is with so many uncertainties with that, with the system, coaching staff, how they're meshing. I'd like to compare the Bucks with, October, November Bucks with February Bucks and see where we're at.
Mm-hmm.
Lisa, I have one more question. So we had a guy named Jay Crowder that was a fan favorite out here in Phoenix, and Boss Man 99. He's your problem now. We love him though. We love Boss Man.
Oh, he's not a problem, man. He's,
No, I mean a problem on the court. He is a dog.
Okay.
He is a dog.
See,
So
that's
I know.
where, like someone's gonna clip that off now for you. The PHNX Suns Podcast called Jay Crowder a problem.
No. I mean a good problem. Jay's a good problem to have.
No, I hear you. I love him. I think he had a really limited role last year, and and we were expecting him to see maybe more minutes in the postseason. So I think it was important for Milwaukee to re-sign him. I'm excited about it. He just, as you guys know, he just adds that edge, right?
Yeah.
And he is the true 3-and-D kind of player. So, when Adrian Griffin's talking about defensively, that, in Toronto, we saw them, turn teams over like 17, 18%, something really high like that. So, and he's talked about having that aggressive defensive mentality too. So, I think it's just something that Jay Crowder can just fit in seamlessly if he's given the opportunity and he's given the minutes this year.
Gotcha.
All right, Lisa. It's not like it's been that long since we've seen these two teams meet in an NBA Finals. I'm not going to ask you if they did meet this upcoming season, how that would play out, because we don't want any PTSD over here for Suns fans. But if they did meet again in the Finals, what do you think that series would deliver us as basketball fans?
Oh gosh. Well, anytime you get to the finals, like you hope that it's great entertainment. But I mean, you guys have, there's so much, right? I can't even project that because there's so much questions on your end too, with a new coach and the big trade that you guys had in the off season. So it's hard. I look forward. Obviously, the East Coast teams, West Coast teams only play each other twice in the regular season. I do look forward to those matchups because of the recent history in 2021, but it is hard to project because that our 2023 team looks a lot more like the 2021 Bucks team that took on you guys than your
Right.
2020 Suns team looking like the 2021 team. So I think that's a little hard to project, but it'd be exciting for both of us to get there, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we would definitely have you back on the show if that happens. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been a fantastic conversation. We really appreciate your time today.
If you have me back on the show, I'll bring my shades. How's that?
Let's
Deal.
go, Lisa. Let's go. I'm going to hold you to that.
Deal.
Thanks for having me
Thank
on,
you,
guys.
Lisa.
You got it.
We'll see you next time.